Jameson Williams, right? Going into his, third year? Yeah, third year in the NFL.
Can we count him as his third? I'm going to say this is his second year, technically.
It's his third. It's his third.
All right, it's his third. He was injured most of his rookie season, and he was suspended this year. So, again, going by the games,
year 2.
Okay, but it is his third season. Jameson Williams, he's going to play, fingers crossed, every game next year, or most of the games. No suspensions, no ACL injuries, knock on wood. He'll be healthy. He'll be ready to go at the beginning of the season. What kind of year are we expecting out of Jameson? And for me, I've been a big fan of J-Mo. You see the talent. I don't think it's hard to see it, right? If you're a guy who goes off strictly production and you look at stats and you go, well, in these games and the role he played, he's bad. Okay. For me, you watch Jameson Williams, and I think on the biggest stage, when they needed him, he showed up. And I mentioned this before the playoffs he played his last year at Alabama, shined on the biggest stage. Like, this is a guy who's not afraid of the big moment. Like, that matters. A lot of guys, and Amon-Ra is one of those guys as well. That's why I think J-Mo, he's always his spot on this team was always wide receiver 2 with higher potential potentially. But now Amon-Ra is a superstar, so I think he's wide receiver 2. Can he have a breakout season next season? Where are you guys at with J-Mo, and what's your confidence level? He can go out next year, and I'm going to say it, get 1,000 yards or close to.
That's exactly, and I wrote it in my notes here. I wrote 1,000 yards, and I think it's a situation to where next year you see an Amon-Ra St. Brown 1,000 yards, a Jameson Williams 1,000 yards, a Sam Laporta 1,000 yards. What the 49ers just did with 2,000-yard receivers, and as well as George Kittle, I think you see the same thing with this Lions team, especially with like Ben Johnson returning. That like he's going to take the next step. And kind of yesterday, Lukas mentioned, I think, about J-Mo Gentry. J-Mo has the highest ceiling on this football team. Like his skill set and his speed and everything he has the highest skill set on this ceiling out of any player, any position whatsoever, with his speed and everything with it. So I think Jameson Williams, he's going to take that next step this next year. He's going to have a full offseason to get kind of involved with Jared Goff and training camp and all of that. I think you see 1,000 plus. And to be honest, there's a potential, fellas, and this might sound kind of crazy. If Jameson Williams does take that next step and Ben Johnson gets him more involved, like Gentry said yesterday, you might be looking at one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL when it comes to Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. And that's going to be very, very scary, especially if you still have like a Josh Reynolds that comes back and a Khalif Raymond and Sam Laporta. Like, if you have one of the best kind of wide receiver duos in the NFL, that is a scary, scary thing in a Ben Johnson offense and with a guy like Jared Goff. So I think it's easy. I think you see both of these guys get 1,000 plus, and you have to use him more. You have to find a way to get him involved.
I feel like if he doesn't get 1,000, it would be a disappointment. He already had 400 in like the limited snaps and the limited throws he was getting this year. And like I said yesterday, Ben's got to find a different way to get him incorporated. And we want to see less of Josh Reynolds targets, and a lot of those plays that were being run for Josh Reynolds ran to J-Mo. So minimum, it has to be 800, 900 yards. And I would still be disappointed with that, because that means you're not getting him involved the way you should be, because him with the yak and the yards after catch is going to be the biggest thing, because those like crossing routes, he catches that, he's getting yards. And like, it's just all on Ben Johnson at this point. You've seen towards the end of the year what he can do when he has the ball in his hands. It's just giving it to him now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we already kind of saw it when he returned from the suspension. They're trying to get Jameson Williams the ball back more. When it was like the weeks 1 through, I want to say it was the first 7 games that he played, he had 22 targets. In the last 6 weeks that he played, he had 27 targets, and his production was through the roof. And you even saw it in the playoffs. Like, they're incorporating him more. I don't think he's going to get anything more than about 1,000 yards receiving. I think he's going to have close to 800 to 900 yards to the air and then 200 on the ground. But I think that's perfectly fine when you look at it, because there's a lot of mouths to feed. And even if he doesn't have 1,000 yards as a receiver, if he takes that step, the plays that he is making on the field are going to just scare the defense so much that it's going to open up the offense. And that's why you can have Jahmyr Gibbs as 1,000-yard rusher and have David Montgomery probably 800-900 yards to go with it. So I don't think he needs to have a breakout season statistically, but just from what we've seen so far, because he doesn't need to be a 1,400-yard guy for this team to win. If it takes 900 yards, then that's what it takes. And I don't think J-Mo is going to be commanding 1,000 yards a year. He just wants his team to win, and he's a selfless player. I think he has made no noise in the locker room about not
Two,
getting targets.
two
That's
quick
fair.
things real quick too, Jeff. First thing is Lucas, that's a great point because he does get a lot of rushes too. So he might combine for 1,000 yards both ways, like 800 and like 200 or 300 in rushing and just go out there and get a couple big games rushing as well. But with that as well, I saw a comment earlier in the show. I'm guessing someone saw we were talking about this. And someone kind of brought up Devontae Adams about how it did take him a couple years. Like there are guys in the NFL. I think there's a lot of people, especially like a 12th overall pick, a lot of fans and a lot of people in organization, like they're like, oh, a 12th overall pick, he should be good right away. Some guys, it takes some time, and that's just a fact. And especially like J-Mo, everything he's gone through the last 2 years, it's going to take time. But when that does hit and he does start to click, that's when you start to see kind of why he was picked 12th overall. So I do think like eventually, whether it's this year or he has a kind of year like Lucas said, or next year, he's going to click at some point and be one of the best in the league. And then now you have St. Brown, who was a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL this year, and Jameson Williams, who's a potential top 5, top 10 guy as well. That's where it is. There's a little bit of patience, and I know fans hate to hear that.
Yeah, and not every wide receiver can walk, and not every wide receiver can be like the food version of instant oatmeal. Like it's going to take some time for certain guys, and I think for J-Mo, to be injured his first season, to kind of get worked back. It seems like it's been the same for his first 2 seasons. It's been missing games, missing a large portion or a big portion of action, and then just getting thrown out there, and people are like, produce. And there's already a well-oiled machine. So how do you expect a J-Mo to come in? And to Lucas's point, he doesn't have to have 1,400 yards for this offense. I mean, you got Sam Laporta. I mean, you got a lot of mouths to feed. Like he's going to get 1,000. I think he's 1,000-yard tight end. And then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I think can be a 1,500 yard guy So there's 2,500 yards of passing, 2,500 passing yards. Now you get Jameer. He's a weapon in the passing game, right? Josh Reynolds. Now I do think Josh Reynolds' future, whether they bring him back or not, if they choose not to bring him back, more targets for Jameson, obviously. And I do think for J-Mo to get 1,000, that's easy money. I'll tell you why. That's about 60 yards a game through a 17-game schedule.
Yeah.
Can he get 60 yards a game? He can get that on a target. I mean, or he can get one catch. So 3 catches a game, equating to 60-ish yards a game. That's 1,000. And now, again, will he? I don't know. Maybe he gets 800. Maybe you got Laporta. If he gets 1,000, now you're looking at the Niners. I mean, even the Niners, they had Ayuk get 1,000, Kittle get 1,000, and Debo didn't get 1,000. So I don't think it matters if he gets 1,000 or not. But again, you'll see it with your eyeballs, him producing and the impact he makes. I do think a big year is coming from next season. I do.